Before it was Nigeria. It was something far greater. It was empires, warriors, kings, queens, scholars. Civilizations so advanced, they rivaled the great powers of Europe. But when the British came, they buried it all. Today, Nigeria is one nation, but its blood flows from 5 forgotten kingdoms. These are their stories. 1. The Oyo Empire, Riders of Thunder. Long before the name Nigeria was ever uttered, the forests and grasslands of the southwest echoed with the thunder of hoofs. The ground belonged to warriors, organized, fierce, and proud. This was the Oyo Empire. Founded around the 14th century by the Yoruba people, Oyo was more than a kingdom, it was a system. A federation of provinces, ruled by powerful nobles, yet centered around the revered Alefin, the king. At its peak, Oyo had the largest cavalry in West Africa. Horses imported from the Sahel thundered across the savannah. Their warriors, the Eso, were elite horsemen, trained from youth, feared across borders. They didn't just fight, they conquered. Their capital, Old Oyo, Oyo, was a marvel. Political councils balanced royal power. Trade routes pulsed with wealth, leather, ivory, kola nuts, and slaves. The empire stretched from the Atlantic coast far into modern-day Togo and Benin. Oyo wasn't just about war. It had a rich spiritual culture. The Ifo oracle guided decisions. The Egungun festivals honored their ancestors. Art, music, and oral history thrived. But like all empires, Oyo faced betrayal from within. In the 18th century, internal rebellion weakened it. And by the 1830s, Fulani jihadists invaded from the north. The great Oyo Empire collapsed. But its legacy never died. The Yoruba people still carry that ancient fire. And the land they once ruled became part of what we now call Nigeria. 2. The Benin Kingdom, the Bronze Walls. Deep in the heart of what is now Edo State, a kingdom rose like no other. Its artistry would shock Europe. Its walls stretched longer than the Great Wall of China. And its kings, called Obos, ruled with divine power. This was the Kingdom of Benin. Benin's roots stretched back to the 11th century. But by the 15th century, it had become a superpower. Its capital, Edo, modern-day Benin City, was a masterpiece. Straight streets, advanced drainage, monumental architecture, and walls, massive, earth-packed walls, that circled the city for thousands of kilometers. But what truly stunned the world was the Benin bronzes. Cast from brass using lost wax techniques, these plaques and statues told the kingdom's story: obos, warriors, battles, rituals. When Europeans arrived, they couldn't believe what they saw. This level of metalwork was thought impossible in Africa. In 1485, the Portuguese became the first Europeans to trade with Benin. They were treated as guests, not rulers. For centuries, Benin controlled its destiny. But in 1897, everything changed. A British delegation entered Benin territory, against warnings. Many were killed. In response, the British launched a full invasion, the Punitive Expedition. Benin City was burned. Its sacred artifacts were looted, thousands of bronzes stolen, now sitting in European museums. The kingdom was absorbed into the British protectorate. But the spirit of Benin, still alive. Its art, its pride, and its blood flows through the people of southern Nigeria today. 3. The Sokoto Caliphate, Empire of the Book. While the south rose with art and cavalry, the north was gripped by fire, a religious revolution that would reshape West Africa. At its center was a Fulani scholar named Usman Dan Fodio. A man of peace, turned warrior for justice. In the early 1800s, the Hausa kingdoms of northern Nigeria had grown corrupt. Oppression, overtaxation, and abandonment of Islamic principles pushed the people to the edge. Usman Dan Fodio lit the flame. His jihad, a holy struggle, wasn't just war. It was reform. He rallied Fulani and Hausa alike to build a pure Islamic state. And from this movement, the Sokoto Caliphate was born. It grew fast, swallowing cities like Kano, Katsina, Zaria, Gom. It became the largest Islamic empire in Africa in the 19th century, stretching across what is now northern Nigeria and beyond. At its heart was education. Quranic schools, libraries, judges, qadis, scholars. Literacy rate soared. Sokoto became a center of learning as much as faith. Unlike many African empires, Sokoto was decentralized. Amirs ruled cities under the leadership of the Sultan in Sokoto. But in 1903, the British came. With maxim guns and political tricks, they defeated the Caliphate and took Sokoto. The Sultan submitted, not out of fear, but to protect his people. Today, northern Nigeria still bears the deep mark of this empire in religion, politics, and identity. The Sultan of Sokoto remains a spiritual leader, not a king, but a symbol. And the empire they built from faith still echoes through mosques and mines across Nigeria. 4. The Kanem-Bornu Empire, Desert Kings. Before Sokoto, before even Oyo, in the far northeast, rose one of Africa's oldest empires. Kanem, and later, Bornu. Founded as early as the 9th century, the Kanem-Bornu Empire ruled the lands around Lake Chad, now Borno State and beyond. Its kings, called Mai, were Islamic rulers with divine authority. Kanem was a hub of trans-Saharan trade, salt, slaves, horses, textiles. Caravans crossed the desert like floating cities, connecting Bornu to Egypt, Libya, and Morocco. Kanem had diplomatic relations with the Mamluks of Egypt. Its scholars were respected in Timbuktu. Its rulers sent pilgrims to Mecca centuries before most European states even knew the city existed. But the empire was not immune to internal chaos. Civil wars and external pressures split it. It collapsed in the 14th century, but from the ashes, Bornu rose. Under leaders like Mai Idris Aluma, Bornu became even more powerful. It built canals, courts, schools. It repelled invaders with imported firearms. Kanem-Bornu stood for nearly 1,000 years. A millennium of history, erased from Nigerian classrooms, forgotten by modern minds. But its memory still lives in the soil of the Northeast, and the struggles that region still faces today. 5. The Nri Kingdom, Priest of Peace. In the forested lands of southeastern Nigeria, a different kind of empire ruled. It had no army, no conquest, no walls. Yet its influence spread silently, like roots beneath the earth. This was the Nri Kingdom. Founded by the Igbo people, Nri began around the 10th century. Its leader, called the Is Nri, was not a warrior, but a priest king. He ruled not through force, but through ritual and respect. Nri priests traveled from village to village, cleansing taboos, settling disputes, sanctifying leaders. They were the keepers of truth and the voice of the gods. The Nri believed in justice, peace, and taboo against bloodshed. They rejected slavery and war. They believed in ancestral guidance and harmony with the earth. The kingdom wasn't built with weapons, it was built with culture. But when European colonizers and slave traders arrived, Nri's influence weakened. They couldn't compete with guns and chains. By the early 20th century, British rule had absorbed what remained. Yet the Igbo memory is long. Even today, traces of Nri rituals, names, and traditions remain alive in the East. And their story of power through peace deserves to be remembered. When the British arrived in the late 1800s, they didn't build Nigeria, they combined it. These 5 civilizations, Oyo, Benin, Sokoto, Kanem-Bornu, and Nri, had nothing in common except geography. But through force, deceit, and treaties, the British merged them into one colony. Different religions, languages, values, all forced under a single name, Nigeria. The empires resisted. Some fought. Some fell. Some submitted. But none were erased entirely. Their bones still lie in the soil. Their stories in our names. Their spirits in our blood. To know Nigeria, you must first remember what came before. These weren't tribes. These were nations. And their voices, though forgotten, are rising again. If this story moved you, don't let it stay buried. Hit like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, Voices of the Forgotten. Every week, we uncover the hidden truths of Africa's past, the kings, queens, warriors, and empires they never taught you about. Because we are not just descendants. We are the legacy. And the world needs to remember. This is Voices of the Forgotten.